Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my continuation of my book reading of Frankenstein. In this episode, I'll be reading through chapter 10 till 14. Victor Frankenstein continues his story. The monster finished telling me his story, and then he said, "I am alone and miserable. Only someone as ugly as I am could love me. You must make another creature like me, a woman monster, to be my wife." "I shall never make another creature like you," I shouted. "You have done enough evil on your own. If you don't help me, I shall make you more miserable than you have ever been in your life. You will wish you were dead," the monster said. "But if you make another monster to be my friend, we won't hurt anyone. Be kind to me now, and I will learn to love and to be kind." I thought long and hard about the monster's words. I felt sorry for him. He felt so miserable. Perhaps I should help him. "I shall do what you ask," I told him. "But you must promise to live somewhere in the world where nobody lives. You must promise to stay away from other people." I promise," he cried. "Please start your work. I shall watch you, and when you are ready, you can be sure I will come back." He turned and left me, and ran down the mountain. I went back to Geneva immediately. My family were very worried when they saw me. I was pale and my eyes were wild. I could not forget my promise to the monster and the awful work that waited for me. But I had to do it. It was the only way to keep my family safe from his murdering hands around their necks. I need to study for several months to make a woman monster successfully. I heard that an English scientist had done some useful work, so I decided to go to England. Before I went, my father asked me, "Are you going to marry Elizabeth, or do you love another woman? Is this why you are so unhappy?" "No, father," I replied. "I have always loved Elizabeth, and I want to marry her. But I must do one more piece of scientific work before we can marry. I must go to England to do work, and I want to marry Elizabeth when I return." My father and Elizabeth did not want me to go to England alone because I had been so ill. They spoke to my old friend Henry Clerval, and he was very happy to travel with me. I was pleased that he could come, although I did not want him to discover anything about my horrible work. Henry and I reached London in early October and stayed there for a few months. I met and talked with English scientists and learned many useful things from them. Then Henry was invited to visit some friends in Scotland. I planned to travel with him, but I told him that I wanted to go walking in the mountains alone. Henry was not happy with my plan, but in the end he agreed. I bought all that I needed for a laboratory and sent everything to Scotland. Henry and I traveled to Edinburgh together, and then I went further north to find a good place for my laboratory. At last I found the right spot on the island of the north coast. It was a wild and lonely place. Only 5 people lived on the island, so I could work alone and nobody would discover my awful secret. There was a large empty hut on the island, and I brought builders from Scotland to make the hut into a laboratory for me. I showed them how to build my mast, and soon everything was ready for me to start work on the woman monster. Chapter 11. One evening, 2 months later, I was sitting in my laboratory. Most of my work was done, and I could finish the woman monster that night. But I wondered if I should finish the work. Was I making a monster more evil than the first creature? Perhaps 1,000 times more evil? How could I know? Perhaps the woman monster would be another murderer. She had not promised to stay away from other people. Perhaps the two monsters would hate each other and would kill and murder and destroy without end. As I thought these things, I looked up at the window. Suddenly, in the moonlight, I saw the monster's awful face looking at me, and in his yellow eyes I could see only hate and evil. I knew he would not keep his promise. I went over to the laboratory table where the new creature was lying. I pulled off the wires that joined her to my machine. I took a sharp knife and cut through the body that I had joined together so carefully. Through the window, the monster saw me destroy his woman. With a loud and miserable scream of sadness and lost hope, he ran into the laboratory. "You have destroyed all my hopes and happiness," he cried. "You have left me with one feeling, hate, and with one wish to destroy your happiness. You will be sorry that you were ever born. Remember this. I shall be with you on your wedding night." He ran quickly out of the laboratory, and I watched him as he left the island in his boat and sailed away across the sea. I sat and cried as I thought of the danger to Elizabeth, but I knew that the monster would not visit us until our wedding night. I would not die easily, and I would try to kill him before he could kill me. The next morning, I received a letter from Henry. He told me that he was watching me. He was waiting for me to return. I decided to clear the laboratory and to leave the island on the following day. So I returned to the laboratory where the pieces of the woman's monster's body still lay on the floor. I put them all in a large bag with some heavy stones, then took the bag to my boat, sailed out to sea. I threw the bag into deep water and watched it disappear. I was happier than I had felt for months. I knew I had done the right thing, and now there would be no second monster to follow the first. I was very tired and I went to sleep in the boat. I do not know how long I slept, but when I woke up, I was in the middle of a storm. The wind was driving me further out to sea, and my boat began to fill with water. I knew I was in great danger. After some hours, the storm passed, and I saw land to the south. Soon I could see the beach, and a crowd of people standing and watching me. Their faces were cold and unfriendly. As I landed, 4 of the men came towards me and took me by the arms. "We are taking you to Mr. Curran, the judge. He wants to ask you some questions about the murder of a man here last night," one of the men told me. I was sad to hear of the murder, but I did not worry about it. I had been far away at the time and knew nothing about any murder. It would be easy to explain that, so I went with the men to the large house where Judge Curran lived. Chapter 12. The judge was an old, kind man, but his face was very serious as he looked at me. He asked a number of men to tell me what they had seen and found the night before. The first man told me a story. He and his son were coming home from a long days of fishing. It was a dark night, and on the beach they had fallen over the dead body of a man. They had carried the body to the nearest house and found that it was a good-looking young man, about 25 years old. There were the marks of fingers around his neck. When they spoke of the marks of fingers, I remembered the murder of my brother, and I felt a terrible fear. The son then told his story. He had seen a boat with a man in it not far from the beach. He thought it was my boat. A woman had also seen a man in a boat sailing away from the beach. She thought I was the man. Then I was taken to the room where the dead body lay. How can I tell you what I felt when I saw the body? I put my arms around it and cried. What have I done? My friend, my dear friend. The body was Henry Clerval's. And so now I had destroyed another person. This third death was too much for me. I fell down in a kind of madness, and they had to carry me from the room. For 2 months I was very ill and wished only to die. But slowly my madness left me and my health began to return. At last I was able to speak to the Judge Curran, and I asked for news of my family. There is someone here who can answer your question better than I can, he said. Your father arrived a few minutes ago and he is waiting to see you. For the first time since Henry's death, I felt some happiness. I held out my hands to my father as he came into the room. And he took me in his arms. He gave me the good news that Elizabeth and Ernest were safe and well. I was really too ill to travel, but I asked my father to take me home immediately. The police had found somebody who had seen me on my island at the time of the murder, and so the judge let me go free. My father looked after me on the long journey home and sat with me for every minute. Night after night, while I was asleep, I shouted that I was the murderer of William, Justine, and Henry. My father asked me why I said these awful things. I wanted to answer his question, but I could not tell him my terrible secret. He thought that I was still a little mad. We stayed for a few days in Paris on the way home, and Elizabeth wrote to me at our hotel. This is what her letter said. My dearest Victor, I am so happy to know that you will soon be home. But I am afraid that Henry's death is not the only reason for your sadness. Do you still want to marry me, or do you love another woman? You must tell me. I love you, Victor, and I dream of the day when I shall be your wife. But I do not want you to marry me just because your parents wanted it. I can only be happy if you are happy. Do not answer this letter. Wait until you arrive before you give me your answer. But if you are well, and if I can make you smile, I need nothing more to make me happy. With all my love, Elizabeth. I replied immediately. I told her that I love her very much and want to marry her. I remembered the monster's promise to be with me on the night of my wedding. Let him come. We would fight to the death on that night. And after that fight, I would either be dead or at peace, or alive and free. Free to be happy with Elizabeth. We arrived in Geneva soon after my letter had reached Elizabeth. It was wonderful to see her again. She ran into my arms and held her close. She cried when she saw how thin and old I looked. She too was thinner before. She had worried about me so much. But her gentleness and her love made her as beautiful as ever. We agreed that the wedding would be in 10 days' time. As the day came nearer, I became more and more afraid. I tried to hide my fear, and laughed and smiled as often as I could. Elizabeth knew that I was unhappy, but she was sure she could give me happiness. She looked forward to our wedding. I began to carry a gun and knife with me everywhere I went. Chapter 13. After the wedding, a large number of our friends came to party at our house. When the party had started, Elizabeth and I said goodbye and left for our honeymoon. We traveled first by boat and planned to spend the night at a hotel on the other side of the lake. The mountains and the lake were calm and beautiful. And at last Elizabeth and I were together. For the first time for months, for the last time ever, I enjoyed the feeling of happiness. In the evening, the wind became stronger, and soon a great storm broke above us. Every noise frightened me, and I kept my hand on my gun under my coat. I saw the monster in every shadow. Suddenly, I realized how terrible the fight would be for Elizabeth. I asked her to go to bed, and I decided to search for the monster. I planned to join her when I was sure he was not in or around the hotel. Elizabeth left me, and I searched every corner of the hotel, every dark doorway and staircase. I could not find him, and I began to hope that he had not followed us to the hotel. But suddenly, I heard a loud and terrible scream. It came from our room. Then, too late, I understood. The monster had promised to be with me on my wedding night, but he had not planned to kill me. The scream came again, and I ran to our room. Why did I not die there and then? On the bed, Elizabeth lay still, in the cold sleep of death. I took her in my arms and saw the marks of a murderer's fingers on her neck. Other people in the hotel had heard the screams and came into our room. I sent one of them to call the police. The others left me alone with my misery. I held Elizabeth close, and as I held her, I saw the monster watching me through the open window of the room. There was an evil laugh on his face. I pulled my gun from my coat and fired at him. I missed, and he ran from the window and jumped into the lake. The other people heard the noise of the shot and came back into the room. I showed them the place where the monster had jumped into the lake. We searched the edge of the lake, but we could not find him. I returned to our room and lay on the bed next to my dear wife. Suddenly, I had another terrible thought. At this very moment, perhaps my father was fighting the monster with Ernest dead at his feet. I left the hotel and returned to Geneva as fast as I could. My father and Ernest were safe, but the awful news of Elizabeth's death killed my father. He had loved Elizabeth dearly. He became ill, and after a few days, he died in my arms. The evil monster had brought unhappiness and death to a dear old man who has never hurt anybody. I do not know what happened next. I think I left the real world and entered a dangerous world of dreams and madness. Later, I found that they had put me in a prison because of my madness. After many months, they had let me free. I had only one wish: to find and kill the monster. Chapter 14. I decided to leave Geneva forever. I took all the money that I needed and left the town. Before I left, I went to visit the place where William, Elizabeth, and my father lay to rest. I stood there and promised them that I would stay alive until I had killed the monster. A loud, evil laugh rang out through the silent night. Then I heard the monster's voice. "It pleases me that you have decided to live, because that is just what I want." I ran towards the voice, but I could not catch the monster. I saw him running away, but he ran faster than any man could go. Too fast for me to catch, but I followed him, and I have been following him since that day. I shall stay alive until I catch him. He wants me to live as long as possible. He wants me to feel day after day the pain and misery that he has given me. He leaves messages to tell me where he is. He knows that I shall follow him. I am only happy when I am asleep. I dream that I am with my family and Elizabeth and Henry. When I'm awake, I look forward to my death, to the day that I shall be with them. In this last message, the monster told me that he was going north. He wanted to take me where the cold would hurt me and make me more miserable. So I followed him to the cold lands of the north and bought dogs and a sledge. Until then, until now, he has always left me further and further behind when I chased him. But the dogs were very fast and I was getting closer and closer to him. Soon he was only one day's journey in front of me. He was going towards the sea, and I hoped to catch him before he reached it. The chase over the ice continues for about 3 weeks. The pain from the cold was very great, and I began to lose hope. I thought I would never catch him. My dogs could not run much further, and one of them died. But then I saw something on the ice in front of me. It was the monster and his sledge. Suddenly, I was full of hope again, and I gave a great shout of happiness. I got closer and closer to him. Then a great storm started. The ice began to break, and the sea carried him away from me. My sledge was broken, and I lost my dogs. I was left on a piece of ice that was becoming smaller all the time. Many hours went by, and then I saw your ship. And the rest you know. I asked you, Captain Walton, to chase the monster and kill him. Do not listen to what he says. He knows how to argue, and perhaps you will feel sorry for him. But remember that he is evil. Remember the death of William, Justine, Henry, Clerval, Elizabeth, my father, and remember me, Victor Frankenstein. There is no more for me to say, except to thank you, Captain Walton, for your help and kindness. Thank you also for listening to my story. I want you to tell the world that the monster is a danger to everyone. I know that I have only a few hours left to live, but I can feel my loved ones near me, and I welcome death. Goodbye. This is the end of Victor Frankenstein's story. And that was the end of Victor Frankenstein continues his story. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.